than the Twin Towers this time.
Or a beach.
Welcome to DiverseCity Boulder. I'm Zoe Zimmerman. I'm here with my co-host Steve Finkelstein today, and we're going to be talking about Boulder's new food co-op. Steve?
So let me introduce everyone at the table here. This is Steve Phillips. This is David Blessing and Theo Horesh.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So how did you all get started thinking about having a food co-op?
Well, it was this guy's idea. And he initially, Crystal Market was going out of business at the time. That was a small health food store on 19th and Pearl, just across the street from where we'll be opening up a new location on 19th and Pearl. It's a couple of years ago. It was going out of business, and the whole community was depressed as far as I was concerned. I mean, people were really sad. This was a piece of old Boulder that was going to disappear, a part of Boulder that held together two very large communities, the Goss Grove neighborhood and the Whittier neighborhood. And so I came into the store, and I was feeling sad just like everybody else. And Steve says, well, there's a possibility that we might be able to turn it into a co-op. And I'm like, well, you got anybody to organize it?
And he said, not me.
And I pointed to Theo. I said, you're the man.
And then I struggled for about 9 months and pointed to this Steve. So that was how it all got started. And we had a wild time for about 2 months trying to save Crystal Market, and we didn't know what we were doing. We definitely know what we're doing now, but the people we had on board were highly dedicated, and it was an incredibly short amount of time, an incredible large amount of work, and we decided to take our time and really do it right. And so we've been working on it for 2 years now.
And what all have you been having to do? What does it take to create a food co-op?
First thing is it takes an education on how to create a food co-op.
Yeah, we did have to do a lot of information gathering and talking to other experts in the co-op realm, talking to other cooperatives around the country. And we had to do a lot of work to see what the interest was in Boulder, and that was through our membership drive. And we've been working on that for about 1.5 years now, and we're up to over 700 members now.
Wow.
And
that's incredible.
They're still coming in, like 5-10 members a day, and we're pretty confident we'll be over 1,000 members before we open.
Mm-hmm. Well, so speaking of that, how do you become a member?
Good question.
Yeah.
Don't you just go to bouldercoop.org on the internet? Bouldercoop.com.
Bouldercoop.com. Does
That's
it
our
have a dash
website.
in the middle or not?
No.
Okay.
That's if you have access to the internet, that's probably the easiest way, and all the information is there. But basically, there's 2 ways you can go about it. Either you can be an annual member, or you can be a lifetime member. And an annual membership, if you're an individual, is $25 a year, and a family membership annual is $35 a year, but you get 2 membership cards. And if you want to go the lifetime route, which would be great because that helps the co-op the most, is $250 for an individual and $350 for a family or 2-person household. And that money is used to help capitalize the store, buy our equipment and inventory, etc.
So I think back, when was the program we ran on the co-op before?
God, it must have been 3-4 months ago now.
Last spring, I remember.
Oh, was that long ago?
Last spring.
Yeah.
And the topic then was
Is it going to happen?
why Boulder doesn't have a co-op.
Right.
And this time the topic is Boulder is going to have a co-op now.
Yeah.
So we've come a long way, and some of the good news is we've signed a lease for the Business Express building on Pearl and 19th.
Really?
And we have city approval. So the 2 main stumbling blocks have been overcome. And we're really excited about that. So there was a lot of people who said, well, I'd like to become a member, but once you get a location, that's when I'll join. So all you folks who said that, now's the time.
Waiting.
We're calling you on it. Yeah. So I think the big question now is not why don't we have a co-op, but why don't we have more co-ops? Why don't we have a thriving cooperative economy in Boulder? And I think that the food co-op is going to be the base of a lot of alternative community-oriented programs, whether it be small cooperatives that are getting started out of the food co-op, something like a child care cooperative in our community space. Will be a support for a massage cooperative that's in town that will be doing chair massage there. There are all kinds of possibilities that can come out of this.
Oh gosh, yeah, once we bring people together in terms of a community, the possibilities are unlimited.
Yeah.
So,
Well, maybe you could explain what actually is a co-op then, since you're going to have all these co-ops.
Well, a cooperative is where members of the community own their own business, their own industry, their means of production, and the manner of getting the things to their table. And it's a very liberating process because once the community has that control, it is no longer at the whims of any profiteering interest. It is simply bringing the goods at the cheapest possible price.
It's important to remember, I think the most important thing to keep in mind with what separates a cooperative out from other kinds of business is just to think the whole notion of business being turned on its head, rather than people selling services or serving other people in order to make money. We're making money in order to serve people. We're collecting resources of a community so that we can provide community services. It's the same idea of it as a nonprofit, but we're doing it around meeting a vital need of the community, the most vital need, which is food. Other vital needs would be housing, and there's a group in town that's working on housing cooperatives as well.
speaking about vital needs, I think one main vital need we have as a organism is community. And during Crystal Market days, there was a loose community of people that shopped there, and that's where the grief came with it closing, because the people who felt some sort of loose community was going to miss that. And now not only are we going to be able to offer that, but that's one of the things that we stand for and that we're based on.
Yeah.
So.
Indeed, I think community is the basis for satisfaction with any group of people. If you take away a sense of community, a sense of participation with other humans, then you find very desperate and a hopeless society. And I think a lot of the problems that our society faces today, a lot of drug abuse, murder and mayhem in the society is because of a lack of sense of community. If a child feels that there are elders, that there are people that they can relate to in a very easy and relaxed way, they're going to feel satisfied in their lives. They're not going to feel the need to try dangerous dangerous manners of attracting attention. And certainly we hope, and in many cases around the world, cooperatives provide that sense of community focus, that members of the community can find that sense of peace of mind, satisfaction, and have a more peaceful society because of it.
I think we all have a need to feel like we belong to something bigger than ourselves.
I'm still kind of confused about how a food co-op would create a sense of community.
Our vision.
It's really interesting. I feel like I've gotten pretty articulate on this, and I'm still not always able to explain why. But anybody that's watching this now, and all of us here, if you've ever been to a food co-op, you feel it. You walk in the door, and there's this incredible sense of community. And the best thing, or the clearest thing that I'm able to pinpoint it on, is the fact that it's the least likely place to create a sense of community, which is a business. Businesses are known for not having a strong sense of community, although some businesses do. Mm-hmm. And the intention is 100% around creating a sense of community. And in the most material way, it's recognizing ourselves as a community. We don't just have a sense of ownership, Everybody talks about having a sense of ownership. We'll all feel like we're part owners of this, but you're not. Here you will be an owner. If you join the co-op, you are an owner.
How is it
And
different from, say, United Airlines, where they say
We
that
don't
the
fly.
people own the company, and they're having all these management problems anyway, you know?
The
So how is it
the
different?
workers own United, and worker-owned co-ops can be incredible. I have heard some things about. I think worker-owned co-ops are extraordinary. I have heard some things about United in that only a certain number of the workers own it. It's not every single worker. Like it might just be the pilots and certain
Flight attendants.
Yeah, there's some group that's been left out, and there's incredible controversy.
So part of it is that everybody who is a member owns it. And don't they also work there?
They may work there, but the main thing is each person has a vote in any decision-making process. We'll have annual meetings, and issues will come up that the membership will be able to vote on and decide what shape they want the co-op to take.
And have you ever walked into a place and felt this is my store? With the co-op, it will be. You
Wow.
know? And with that comes a sense of responsibility and contribution. You see something that needs to be picked up off the floor, you do it because this is my store. You know, and you know, when you stock food, it's because it's my store. And when you see the people that shop there, you know, these are my family in some sense of the word. We have visions of a large community room where we can hold different events, classes, and gatherings. And would you speak to that a little bit, Steve?
Yeah. The community room will be available, you know, all during the working hours of the store, and there'll be events, classes, speakers, music, you know, not too loud so we don't disturb the neighborhood. Maybe a birthday party there, you know, whatever. And well, also right next to it, there's a cafe, deli area. So I mean, those two rooms are right together, and people can mingle back and forth. So that'll create a lot of community in itself, just having those spaces, in addition to people shopping in the stores.
And you're going to be somehow related to, you said, a child care co-op and various other co-ops that are on the
I'm just
premises.
suggesting possibilities.
That sounds like
There's
a good idea.
we've talked about. There is a small massage cooperative in town that does chair massage at the Boulder bookstore, and we've talked about bringing in that group into the food co-op. And there's been talk about using this community space for as a child care cooperative space during certain parts of the day. We'll probably have to see how a lot of this stuff plays itself out, how much energy it takes, if it's a child care cooperative, what kind of mess is left? Is it compatible with the other groups? And we'll have to do a lot of honing down on that small space. But I think the point to make is that you have one very large business in town that is willing to support and excited about supporting these other kinds of cooperatives that usually take very little funding and very little support. They almost just need an office space or a membership that they have access to.
Well, one idea that I'm really excited about is we're talking about the possibility of having a community therapy room where
Really?
where people can come and sign up for instance, say I want to see clients as a psychotherapist. I can say Thursday from 10 to 11, I've got the room, and offer the co-op some kind of remuneration for that, and they can, massage therapists can see clients there and whatever else. And so if you don't have an office, you can use the co-op office.
That's a terrific idea.
Yeah.
That's great.
So what would be the difference between, let's say, a Whole Foods and this? Because I notice when I go into Whole Foods, and this is the kind of the best, maybe closest thing I've gotten to a feeling of community, which is really weird since it's a huge corporation. But there's a certain feeling of where the people that work there really seem to be happy and everybody's friendly, and and somehow, what's the difference?
That friendliness
I'm
is
sure
a
there is.
start. But the main difference is that when Whole Foods makes a profit, the profit generally goes out of state. It goes to someplace else. Whereas any profit that is generated in the cooperative will stay right in the community. It won't be taken outside anywhere. It is not paying for a very expensive home or a very expensive car for anyone.
Mm-hmm.
It is a part of the community, and it remains a part of the community. We may have a program whereby any profits at the end of the year will be distributed amongst the members of the co-op.
Mm-hmm.
So the profits will be turned back into the community.
And so you can actually maybe even use it to help the other littler food co-ops get started, or whatever people decide they want to do.
Any sort of industry you can imagine in society, any way of livelihood that any person may choose, can take the shape of a cooperative. And it is a much more pleasant way, I think, of taking the of making a living, because the participants in the cooperative have an incentive to work together, and rather than the traditional corporate system of business is where one person or two people or a group of people have management over a larger group of people that basically are wage slaves. Mm-hmm. And that creates a sense of inequity. It creates a sense of competition. It creates a sense of, in many ways, an unhealthy tension in the workplace, because a person is afraid that they have to please, this boss, or if they don't treat that boss just right, why that boss may fire them. And so this tension occurs inside. Whereas in a cooperative, there is no incentive for that sort of attention creation, and a good cooperative manager won't create that sort of attention in the workplace.
So you do have managers and you have employees of some sort,
Yeah.
that actually get paid?
Yeah, we have, in a lot of ways, it's a traditional structure. The difference is, if you look at it like this, that in a corporation you have shareholders, hire a board of directors, hire the manager hires everybody else, just replace shareholders at the top of the whole thing with consumer owners. That's all the members. That's all of you who will be becoming members after we've thoroughly convinced you that this is the way to go. That's the primary difference in the structure. Add to that working members who will be doing a decent amount of work at the store, and it's about the same, but the difference is all the difference in the world, I think.
There's a big difference between the balance of pay. In the company, the business manager or the owner will get paid quite a bit, a percentage much higher than the workers. Mm-hmm. Whereas in most cooperatives in the world today, that ratio is somewhere between 3-to-1, where the managers, the highest paid, are paid only 3 times more than the least paid, to 10-to-1, where the highest paid are paid just 10 times more than the least paid. And when you get into our corporate structures today, you have situations where there's 1,000-to-1 differential, and that's a tremendous incentive for the managers to exploit workers to the maximum, where you see sweatshops are a manifestation of that, where the more money that you can, or the more work you can squeeze out of a worker for the least amount of money, creates the most profit, and that's the incentive, is simply to create profit. Mm-hmm. Whereas in a cooperative, the incentive is to create value, it's to create a healthy environment.
I think one thing that's kind of been left out of this whole picture about talking about how do cooperatives create community, and you mentioned earlier about having this feeling when you go into Whole Foods. Now, I don't know the Whole Foods community in depth myself, if there is a sense of an in-depth community. But I think it's really important that we ask ourselves, well, what is this community that we all keep talking about? Mm-hmm. Is it just about a bunch of people hanging out, smiling, being nice to one another, occasionally striking up a conversation that might even lead somewhere in depth? Or is it about a whole lot of us taking responsibility for one another, caring for one another, providing things that matter for one another, helping us to get little micro businesses started up in our lives, helping pull together our community's resources to support one another. And when I think of communities as it was traditionally used, that word, it was always about communities that did all these things. They supported one another. And it seems like it's only in literature past 1980, past the time when Reagan came in office and the Dark Ages began, that we began to talk about community as a bunch of people just kind of smiling at one another.
Well, we know the basis of any community is the production of food. No community can survive without food.
Mm-hmm.
So the production and the delivery system for food to the populace is the basis for any community. When that is set, when people are comfortable, when people are confident in that system, it takes a tremendous amount of tension away from the community. The community can relax more because that at least there's going to be food on the table. So in an ideal community, there is a direct connection between the consuming or the delivery system, which in this case will be the cooperative, and the production system, which in this case is the farmers. And we will have a direct link with the local farmers primarily. Our cooperative is going to focus as much as possible on on local produced goods, and that creates an economy, a more healthy economy in our local society, where the farmers have a market for their goods that is stable, and the people have that sense that there's always a food supply there that they have control of. No one can pinch that. There's no middleman between the farmer and the consumer that is taking a profit that is unnecessarily taken out. There should, I feel, be a direct link between the producer and the consumer.
So we've got a vision that can take over the world, and this is just the first step. And we need laugh tracks, so in case it's only us who's laughing here.
Well, you know what keeps coming up for me, which is really weird, like a real far-out devil's advocate kind of position, where somebody's going, well, this sounds like socialism or communism, and what... And
Define
ooh.
it. Define it.
I would like to point out something.
No, I know. I just...
Well, I think there is this kind of thing around about, the word socialism means something bad. And,
Definitely.
And I wonder, and this is actually socialism, but it isn't something bad.
Well, there's a tremendous incentive by the moneyed class to create a bugaboo around socialism.
Right.
Because if people are satisfied, if people feel confident and comfortable with themselves in their lives, they won't buy so many useless things. And our whole corporate economy, a great deal of it, is based on the consumption of things that we really don't even need. And as soon as you take that out, then a whole structure starts to crumble, a structure that is unnecessary, a structure that creates tension in our lives unnecessarily. Why do we have to pay people to drive very expensive cars that we can never even have a hope to drive, or big fancy houses that we never have a hope to live in? To me, it is pointless. We constantly work. How much effort do we put in each day just to pay for things that other people will enjoy, that we can never enjoy? A tremendous amount of our labor goes into satisfying other people's fanciful power ideas of their personal needs. If I'm very wealthy, if I have a lot of money, it is satisfying that I am a superior being. It gives me a sense of superiority. If people are in control of their lives, my sense of superiority that is based on the diminutivation, the diminishing others, that sense of superiority is going to crumble. And I think it's good that it crumbles. I don't think that it's healthy for anyone to have that sort of a sense of superiority over others, that sense of a power struggle between wealthy persons in the world.
The reason I was so insistent on defining socialism, it's there are a million different definitions going around out there. under many of those definitions, cooperatives would fit the desire to create a cooperative society. And at the same time, since the 1840s, when cooperatives began making their appearance in Western Europe, they've been supported by all different political parties in numerous different countries. In America, cooperatives have tended to be supported by conservatives, liberals, radicals alike, and be looked at as a very practical community building thing. In other countries, they've gotten more politicized.
Well, there must be something really useful about it if all different kinds of conservatives and liberals and everything.
Definitely. Cooperatives have the potential to make America very strong as a nation, because right now we're more susceptible to terrorist attacks when our structures of resources are very centralized. If you have a power plant, for instance, that is very centralized, one terrorist attack can wipe it out, and then many people will be without power. The same with the food delivery system. If there is a very centralized food delivery system and it's attacked by a terrorist attack, then that will deprive many people of food. Water systems, whatever systems we look at, the more centralized they are, the more susceptible they are to terrorist attack. The more decentralized they are, the more every community has control over its own power and food and necessity delivery systems, then the more decentralized it is, the less susceptible it is to terrorist attack. And in fact, one terrorist or one group of terrorists would have a very hard time attacking each and every one of these systems.
Part of a proposal we're making to the Pentagon right now.
Is that right?
No. It looked like
What
Steve
were you
wanted-
gonna
That's
say?
part of what I was going to say. No, cooperatives are basically people working together for a common purpose. You know, you can take any purpose. We've chosen food, natural food, and we try to coordinate the talents of all the members or those who want to be involved. And it's been a really interesting and fun process because so many people that have become members are saying, oh, I have this talent, or I have this talent, and I can help with that. And we're getting so much volunteer help with all that. And it just shows me what a group of people can do together that one or two people or even a business with employees can't do, that we can do. We have 700 people out there. We're going to have more than 1,000, and they all have great talents.
Yeah.
And they can really help to.
Well, I did actually
run
want to
this
make
business.
sure we got to that of what you need from people still as you're starting this up.
Yeah, well, like Steve was saying earlier, we've gotten to the point where we've got our building now, and we've got 700 members, and we need 1,000. So the first thing, if people want to help, is to become a member. That's going to help in a lot of ways. It's going to give us capital to start with, but then it's also going to give us shoppers. And we need to reach a certain level of sales to make the business work.
And it also helps you get people that are working there, so, right? Or not necessarily.
Oh, yeah, for volunteer,
I mean, you need volunteer-
or working members.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and even before that, we're slated to take possession of the building, I believe, February 1st.
Yes, we need contractors. We need a plumbing contractor, general contractor, heating and air conditioning contractor, and people that...
Okay, slow down. Plumbing?
Plumbing, yes.
Yeah, we're going to need to renovate
General?
the building.
Yes.
And we're going to need everyone in line for that. We're going to need architects, we're going to need carpenters, we're going to need electricians, plumbers, anyone that can swing a hammer that knows where they're swinging it.
So people to volunteer for that,
Yes,
right?
everywhere from someone who can just swing a hammer to someone who's got a license and can head a project.
Yeah, we need licensed people to oversee things. And then we also, besides that, we need some more funding. We've raised, a good part of the funds we need, but we, from members, we're asking for loans. And if the co-op comes up with approximately 1/3 of the total funds that we need, then we can go to banks or co-op development funds, and they'll see that the co-op is going to be supported by the members. So then they'll put in another third or so. And then we've been working with our potential suppliers, and they're willing to give us credit on inventory, assuming we get the other steps done. So it's all lined out as far as what needs to happen. But the first step is really that the members need to jump in and support it with membership and loans and helping with fundraising events and projects that we do.
Yeah, we've come a long way since the inception of this idea, and back then it was just a concept, and we had many obstacles to overcome. As that, first of all, to turn the concept into something concrete that we could actually focus direction on, and beginning to gain membership from just an idea. And we had several hundred members sign up just from a concept. We had nothing concrete to offer them. Now we have something concrete. And what were some of the other obstacles we've overcome?
Or you were saying that about membership. I can remember the board meeting we were sitting in after a couple of weeks. We've been on our membership drive, and I brought the report, and we have 10 members.
Everyone cheered.
Oh, I mean, the first obstacle we overcame was that people just thought this was a ridiculously insane idea. Well, of course Boulder needs a co-op, and why doesn't Boulder have a co-op? But you can't actually get a co-op together in Boulder.
Yeah.
That was kind of the idea.
Yeah.
I remember this one guy in Crystal Market, in the last days of Crystal Market, and he was an older guy, so he was making me feel really insecure, and Steve too. And I remember he just kept going off on why we couldn't make it happen. And I remember Steve just walking off and saying, I've heard enough of this. and people have a hard time imagining that these things can happen. Mm-hmm. And that's part of why one little co-op store is a miraculous thing. It shows that we can have this alternative economy that we want, this cooperatively based economy.
Yeah, we're pretty entrenched in the way things are, I guess, and it's hard to make the shift.
There's a tremendous amount of fear, I think, in change. And a change this, for some people, can be rather dramatic, where if one has a job, one is responsible only to an employer. And once one gets comfortable with that whole system, that corporate system of management and working, it's sometimes difficult to conceive of something else. And also the corporate system, the corporate structure, has an incentive to vilify, to make corporate enterprise look bad. Because again, that whole corporate consumer structure thrives on people feeling dissatisfied with their lives. When people feel satisfied, they won't sell so many things. And we won't have to work so much. Because if we're satisfied in our lives, we'll feel comfortable enough with ourselves that we won't need to buy things that we know are really unnecessary.
You mean I shouldn't get that digital camera I've been looking at?
Well, a digital camera might be very usely.
I can take pictures of the co-op.
You can take pictures of all kinds of things, but you won't have to work as hard for that because perhaps you won't spend money on there are a number of other things that are perhaps less necessary for you.
A new TV or something.
Giant widescreen
So-
TV.
Well, personally, I love the idea of shopping and supporting a store that's ours. Mm-hmm. It's not somebody else's, it's ours.
Yes.
And I can make a difference there. I could say, this produce looks like crap, what's going on? And something will happen. I don't know.
The reason it will happen too is that it's not because someone wants to make more money off of you.
Right. Got to keep the customers happy. So
Right. Exactly. It's going to be someone who comes along that was hired because they care, because they genuinely care as best the manager could find that person, and they're going to come along and they're going to be like, oops.
I better take this out and put something
It
else
does look
in
like
there.
crap, and I don't feel good about it. Because I want to keep everybody happy. I don't want to make more money off of them.
Yes, I know from experience that when I look in the eye of someone that looks at me as though I am a commodity, something to be gained from, they look at me with a certain glint in their eye that makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable. I feel dehumanized.
Want to buy a watch?
Whatever it is. So that when the produce worker is providing the nice produce simply because if he doesn't provide it, his boss will be annoyed, or the bottom line of the corporation he won't even think of that. He's going to worry about annoying his boss or her boss. Whereas in a cooperative, people are there because we care about one another. We don't have any incentive to look at people simply as a profit fountain, an object.
It's sort of like thinking of everybody else as me.
Yes, loving our neighbors as ourselves.
I'm connected to everybody else.
Yes.
And they're all in my family.
Yes.
And so you wouldn't want to give yourself a bad orange.
It's transpersonal economics.
Right.
And you have pre-personal economics, which would be this sort of a community that just naturally comes together and is barter-based trade. Some would call it primitive economics, which is somewhat insulting. And then you have this personalized economics, which is like the whole entrepreneur-driven system. And then a transpersonal economics would be where we go beyond this individualized notion of ourselves and see ourselves as a part of a community that's working together to support our basic needs. And for a town like Boulder, where there are all these people talking about transpersonal psychology and that are checking out all of these spiritual teachers, we need an economic system that's going to match where we're at spiritually.
Yeah. You touched on a good word with family just a minute ago. And the events that we've had so far for the co-op totally remind me of an extended family. And people more of like mind and just
For example,
enjoying.
Like what would be an example of that?
Of the family?
Well, the events that you've had that have made you feel like that.
Well, we had, last winter, we had our first gathering for the co-op when we had 300 members, and people came together, and it was just like a meeting of a family that hadn't seen each other for 30 years or something.
Wow.
And finally they came together. That's the way it felt. And then we've had like picnics in the park, and we're going to be having another gathering next Saturday.
Yes.
At the Rocky Mountain Peace and Justice Center. It's a Thanksgiving feast, vegetarian, and that'll be at 1 o'clock. So if people want to get a feeling of the family atmosphere from the co-op members, then they can come and join in.
So that's open to anybody or people that join?
Anybody can come.
Wow.
We prefer you join when you come, but you can come.
But it's not necessary. Everyone can come.
So you all are the leaders of this.
We're all board members.
You're all board members.
We're the slaves.
And you've all brought it. Well, I guess you're the servants of it.
Yes,
That's a better
Yeah.
word. Yeah.
we don't get paid anything. We're doing it out of because we all know that it's a very good thing, and we want to share this phenomena of community ownership with the entire community. So we're dedicated to do it without any sense that we're going to get paid anything monetarily for it. But the satisfaction's coming in our hearts that it just feels like a very good thing to do. It feels very fulfilling.
Yeah, we wanted to create this, and we can. We are. We have.
Yeah. Well, so it seems to me that you all have brought certain things to it. Like you were saying, weren't you the designer of the store?
Yes,
or
I'm doing the
something?
layout for the floor layout. What the store is going to look like when we open.
I've got to say, when I saw the layout for the first time 2-3 weeks ago, it brought a tear to my eye.
Wow.
We had this vision for so long, and it's like, oh, and the deli's going to be here? Oh, I got misty. So it was something concrete that our vision is becoming actualized more than, well, we've got 700 members. Well, we've got a lease. It's like, oh, yeah, this is what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
So I got very excited.
Yeah. Well, I imagine you all have backgrounds that you bring to this.
I became politically aware in Minneapolis. There's a very strong cooperative community. And I grew up, just in the corporate ethic, work ethic sort of a flow. And one day I was introduced by a friend to the cooperative system, and I got employed in a cooperative, and I started to shop in cooperatives, and the sense of satisfaction that I felt is something that I really cannot describe. Just this sense of being at home, even when I'm shopping, the sense of peace when I'm shopping, that I'm not just an object of production, I'm not just a piece of market share, I'm part of a family, I'm part of a community. It was very satisfying. And I was always wanting to start cooperatives. I've thought about cooperatives. I've traveled extensively around the world, and there's always a different atmosphere between a cooperatively owned business and a corporately or a business that is run purely on a profit motive. And I was so happy, so inspired when Theo told me I went to a picnic last spring, and this whole idea was laid out. Hey, we can have a co-op. And I said yes, and I signed out a check, and I'm proud to be the first member of the co-op. I don't need to see it. Just the very idea of it, that people are inspired to make it happen, is just something that I want to participate in.
And you also have like some kind of design background, or how did that come about that you designed the store?
I like to design things. I don't have any degree in it. I never went to college for it or anything like that. But it's something that my mind does well, and people are satisfied with the design that I'm creating. So, if I wasn't very good at it, then someone else would be doing it, and it doesn't matter that much to me.
We also have some professionals reviewing the design for us, making little adjustments here and there.
Certainly, I've been in communication with many professionals. I've sent it off to people that have done extensive designing and have degrees and college educations in design. So I've been getting coaching and tips and ideas from them as well.
And the roof will not fall down.
Oh, good.
We guarantee that.
On Mondays.
And Steve, didn't you used to have a store?
Oh, yeah.
Or you have a background that you bring to this too.
I do. I see my role as kind of twofold. One, as impetus. I kind of see where spark is needed and say, stay, The other thing is I do have a lot of background in, I've had several of my own stores and worked in several stores, and one of my skills is seeing where we are and seeing where we're trying to get and figuring
How to get there.
Yeah, what lies in between. And so I see myself more as a resource than an actual implementer for the co-op. And I'm looking forward to the day when there's enough of us where the burden of responsibility can be passed on and I can just be a shopping member. So.
But you know a lot of how stores work and what all the procedures are and that kind
Yeah.
of thing, and you bring that whole background to this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's also a national network of cooperatives in many cities throughout the country. Very strong, very substantial, very stable cooperative network. And we're drawing extensively on those resources, both economic and advisory.
But this guy here is our master cooperative resource that we have on board with plenty of experience, and he doesn't like to toot his own horn.
So you're going to tell him.
So I figure I need to do it for him. But why don't you?
I guess I'm the implementer. I keep things moving forward. And I have some experience with a national cooperative called Frontier Natural Products Co-op. It's an herbal co-op, herbs, spices, aromatherapy products I worked for 16 years. And my main experience was marketing and public relations.
They're the largest herbal distributor in the country, right?
One of. On some particular product lines, yeah.
Especially on Mondays.
On Mondays.
I was actually their first marketer for the company.
Oh, really? That's a huge resource
18
to
years
have.
ago.
Somebody that knows how to market. I know I'm really weak in that.
We have a whole lot of
Very
talent.
impressive, yeah.
So I basically got used to working for a cooperative and doing marketing, and when I left that company, I wanted to keep going with the co-op. So the opportunity came up when Theo talked to me to work with this co-op, and I just find it totally exciting work to do. Totally little pay, but a lot of excitement.
And speaking of Theo in my perception has been like the electrolyte in a battery.
What?
Carried without the electrolyte. And Theo's been networking and bringing us all together, and he's done an incredible job too.
The way I'm looking at it is Steve makes a box. I bring everybody to the box. David shows them what to build, and Steve will show them all how to turn it into a business.
Well, so what is your background? Like, what do you bring in here?
I'm simply a community organizer, I think, of numerous different kinds of projects, whether they be political or cooperative housing, all over the place, really. If there's a project that needs to be done, I'll do it.
You've studied these extensively in college, have you not?
I'm mostly through a second master's degree, this time in philosophy, so I'm focusing a lot on social and political philosophy. So I feel like I have a really clear vision that I can articulate well of what's missing in our society and how cooperatives could provide that. And I think that can help to bring a lot of people on board. So I'm the big talker.
You're real excited about it.
Yeah. It's hard not to get excited about something so extraordinary as a cooperative.
Yeah, it's really going to make a change in Boulder. You know, I mean, people are going to get a sense that something different can happen. You know, when people come together like this and start their own cooperative business, like Theo was saying, you know, it can keep going in other areas. You know, with the housing co-ops, the massage co-op, herbal health co-ops, whatever. There's numerous possibilities.
Anything one can imagine, we can produce, we can make into a cooperative business if people choose to do so.
I think a very, very real possibility that I think will happen is in our community space. If you've noticed, trying to find yoga classes in Boulder that are less than $10 a piece is almost impossible. Occasionally I'll hear of one, once every couple of years. Someone that I don't know will offer one. And I think the co-op will be able to provide pretty low-cost yoga classes, certainly for members, and that's something we've talked a good bit about.
Is that because there's going to be like exchange? Like if you provide a yoga class, you get something, or?
Here's my sense of it. If why I think it would work. I've added up some numbers on what we could do in this community space and why it could work. And one of the things I've realized is that if you've got an individual yoga teacher that is teaching privately, they have to rent out a space. Those spaces aren't rented out most of the time. So the rent's going to be a lot higher on that location, whatever it is they're renting out. There are tons of places around town that just aren't rented out. For the majority of the day, you call them up and you can easily find a time. I wasn't supposed to bang on the table. You probably just heard a thud. There are all these things you're supposed to do on TV that we're learning about here. But I think a lot of it is just a matter of rent. And with this community space, if we're putting the energy and care into it, we can keep it constantly filled. And we can also, because we have a lot of people that are already coming to this location, there's a lot of care put into it, we can make the money we need to make to support this community space in less time with less energy. In other words, it's going to be a lot easier for the co-op to throw a 100-person event at $5 a head a couple of times a week than it will be for some business that doesn't have 300 or 400 people coming into it every day, that has maybe 10 or 12 people walking in and out of it each day.
One thing I wanted to mention too that was exciting to me is talking with local producers and local growers, and they are getting very excited that they're going to have an ongoing place to sell their goods.
So they don't now?
Most of the local growers now are not selling to the, the organic growers, and not selling to the stores in Boulder.
Why is that?
Well, their main business is through CSAs, community supported agriculture, farmers markets, etc. And they haven't been able to develop a relationship with the stores.
So
And
where
that's-
would the stores get the organic food from?
California.
Yeah, most
Really?
of it comes from California.
Oh, so,
They,
wow.
they deal on a much, much larger scale. And so a large corporate chain health food store isn't going to be able to support all kinds of local businesses,
Mhm.
whether it be local producers of food or herbal products or health and beauty aid products or baked goods, whatever it might be.
Yeah, there's new producers springing up every day that I'm finding out about. I talked to someone just the other day about starting to make her own granola. Like, there's no local granola you can find anywhere in town.
That's incredible.
And we'll have a lot of it.
Yeah.
Why ship it from California when you can make it right here?
That
It'll
was
be
one
more
of the-
fresh.
That was
And then
one of
there's
the
also-
first things I started making when I opened my first natural food store. Was we started making our own granola.
Yeah.
It was crunchy munchy. It was a wonderful thing.
There you go. And I've also talked to an herbal manufacturer that lives up in the hills outside of Boulder. And they make their own herbal extracts, a couple hundred different varieties. And they're willing to sell it to us for like $2 an ounce.
Wow.
And we can sell it in bulk. And people can get their healthcare needs met for a much lower cost.
Yeah, it's great.
That's
I didn't
amazing.
even know about that one. That's great.
And then there's a guy that's making sprouts. He makes a couple hundred different
Yeah.
varieties of sprouts, and he wants a place where he can do it and sell it fresh right out of the factory. So we've set aside a little space where we can make the sprouts right in the store.
Sprouting room.
Wow.
And then as soon as they're made, they go out to the shelf to be sold and totally fresh.
And he loves his
Like
sprouts.
food.
You feel it when you're around him. He's a guy at the farmer's market. He's,
You asked earlier about the difference between a company, a corporate enterprise, and a cooperative enterprise. And that word love, I think, is probably the biggest difference. In that in a cooperative enterprise, the whole system is based on the concept of love. It is giving oneself into the community to produce and to also take one's needs. In a corporate enterprise, money is the incentive and power. And as soon as you do that, it takes a certain vibration, a certain resonance out of the society. It makes us more like material objects than spiritual beings. And it dehumanizes us. Whereas in a cooperative, that love that we're all giving in to produce and what we have to offer and to take what we need, that love is what creates a very wholesome, a very healthy, a very spiritual environment, no matter what label or no matter what religious label we put on that spirituality. That love is the main component, and that love is what makes a co-op thrive. It's what makes us more sensitive to the earth, more sensitive to the resources, how we're using those resources. There's no incentive to mismanage the resources, to devastate land for profit. There's no incentive at all. Rather, the incentive is on making sure that the earth itself is maintained in a healthy, balanced way.
I'd like to get back to that, and I'm realizing we're short of time, so I want to for sure get your website address again, and maybe if there's any phone numbers that people can
Yeah.
call.
Website, www.bouldercoop.com. Pretty simple.
That's
And,
the Boulder Food Co-op, in case anybody just tuned in.
Yeah, and that website was donated to us by Creative Designs.
Wow.
And yeah, it was probably a $5,000 contribution on his part.
Great.
So check it out. It's got all the information there. And also you can call 303-447-2667.
443-247?
447 Co-op.
447 Co-op.
Remember the co-op part
Okay,
at the end.
303-447 Co-op.
Right.
Okay.
COOP.
Right.
And
And
www.bouldercoop.com. Write it down. You won't remember it.
And I do need to say what we're going to do next time. We're going to be talking about transference relationships between psychotherapists and clients, and how that all works, and the pitfalls and the positives and that kind of thing. And I did want to get back to this thing of love. And it seems like when you were talking, I got the sense love isn't like an abstract thing. I mean, where you're actually, I started thinking, wow, you know, I would actually literally get healthier by going there because I'm getting
think so.
completely
We're gonna have
fresh
the-
organic food,
We're going to have the love department right next to the bulk food department.
right?
It's grounded love. That's how I like to
Yes,
look at it.
practical. It
And,
seems
and
really
most of us don't know how to love in a really grounded way, and that's I think that's a sad thing, and that's what happens in our lives when community is yanked out from underneath us. Our love becomes completely abstract and ungrounded, and it becomes embarrassing to talk about in relation to anything practical. And love needs to be really practical.
Yeah, plus if you, I mean, I can hear people somewhere out there going, well, what's in it for me? You know, and I'm beginning to really see what's in it for me.
Love.
Love.
And lettuce.
But yeah, lettuce. I mean, really fresh lettuce, inexpensive, wide varieties. It seems like you keep getting new producers that you get connected up with. Plus, it would be mine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There'll also be discounts for members, you know, specials for members only. You'll be able to buy full bags, full cases at, you know, just a small percentage over cost. So there will be a lot of financial incentives there for members as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds like a great thing. Was there anything else that you all would like to say, a little extra plug or something?
I
For
would like
the
to bring
food
up one
co-op?
thing.
Bring up what?
One thing.
Uh-huh.
The success of the co-op right now is basically in the hands of the community. And community support is what's going to make it happen from here on out. We've kind of done, you know, our part in getting us this far and getting the location, and now we're really counting on the community for support.
Yeah, and you really need, 300 more members right now. Yeah.
And we can certainly use more. There are
At
various
least
ways we
300
can get
more members, yeah.
I would like to double the membership myself before we open. And I think we can do that if everyone who wants to become a member is responsible in becoming a member. If everyone out there right now and at any point in time when they hear anybody talking about this says, whoa, I need to call that number and become a member, then I think we'll have 750 more members by the time we open.
And it's only $25 per person per year? Is that what you
Yes,
said?
with a $25 joining fee. So the initial fee for joining is $50, and then $25 every year thereafter.
Until you reach 250 or the
Yes.
lifetime membership.
And last time we were on Diversity Boulder, someone was flipping through their stations and saw the show, and it was it Boulder Weekly?
Yeah, the Boulder Weekly. We should mention them.
And they
Yeah.
gave us a whole lot of advertising for free, and thank you so much, Boulder Weekly, and I hope there's someone watching this time too
Could do that too.
that will feel moved to support
Uh-huh.
this.
Yeah.
So a cooperative is just simply the means of a community to take control of its own destiny, rather than leaving the destiny in the hands of some distant managers, either they're corporate managers or political managers. A cooperative enterprise can take control of its own community in a very localized, very positive, very loving manner.
Yeah.
So it does take dedication, and it takes some work and some energy, and you get a lot for it.
It takes as much dedication as any family has for their siblings, for their brothers and sisters, for mothers and fathers, for parents for their children. It is that same kind of dedication that a cooperative thrives on. Whereas in a corporate enterprise, when someone doesn't do the right thing, you simply fire them. But in a cooperative, there's the incentive to help one another progress and develop in a very positive, very complete way without letting anybody fall by the wayside.
So I'd like to thank you all for coming and joining us on Diversity
Yeah.
Boulder tonight, and with your help out there, we're going to have an incredible co-op.